So that brings us to our last session for today on big data, machine learning, and in-memory computing, an emerging trend. We have with us Mr. Arup Ray, Head Big Data and Cloud Analytics, HANA, EIM at SAP. He's a senior executive with 20 years experience in incubating global practices, managing projects, and consulting across 60 plus countries. He's currently managing global analytics and big data vertical at SAP SDC, incubating strategic big data and SAP HANA COEs, and building IoT analytics and machine learning capability across solution delivery centers. Please join us welcoming Mr. Arup Ray this evening.
Can you hear me? So when Bhaskar called me to present, I was very happy to present. But then I started looking at the profiles of the speaker before me. There are a lot of industry leaders, there are a lot of experts. So I was a little scared. I started getting a little bit of kind of jittery feeling. So what I thought, let's talk something much more safe and interesting rather than talking about analytics. So I thought, let's talk about Panchatantra. Where's the slides? This is SAP 1, nobody can challenge me. So just look at the story. All of us know about this story, right? So this is the story of the rabbit as well as the tortoise. So before the story starts, all of us wanted to be a rabbit, smart, fast, very good looking. But when the story ends, all of us want to be a tortoise, clumsy one, but he is the winner, right? But as you look today, things are not so easy. That time decision was very easy. You can be a tortoise or you can be a rabbit. But today decision is not so easy. Why? So if you look at this, so if you consider tortoise as the big companies like the company I work for, SAP or IBM or SPSS and SAS, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of kind of product development is happening. But at the same time, they are rabbits where your open source technologies. So what's happening there? The challenge is that when you go for go to the customer, they're pretty happy with the existing products, but they're not very comfortable to move into open source technologies. Why? So anybody, if you log into R, the first thing R states that this is an open source product, anything happens, it is your problem. That's the statement actually reads, if you really read the statement. So that's where the customer get confused. What should we do? So in my role, I travel across the countries and speak to a lot of businesses, and I see some of the challenges and issues. So probably next few slides, we'll try to cover that thought process. So if you look at most of the customers are today in the left-hand corner, which is basically traditional ERP, BW reporting, so historical data. But there is an aspiration to move towards the topmost corner. And there are two things they want to achieve. One is definitely the real-time analytics, or as much as possible real-time analytics. And second thing also talking about the future. Can I do predictive and prescriptive? So when I go and sit in front of a lot of business corporates and just one, the expression is like this. My God, what do I do? So there are so much of technologies, there are so much of mathematics. So some of the technology which are emerging, so one of the topic is definitely the in-memory technology, right? And let's touch a little bit of what is in-memory and then we'll get into the story. So in-memory, first it started with the kind of growing of the RAM. So today, say for example, you can easily get a 2 GB RAM. And when I started my engineering, my computer itself was 2 GB, forget about RAM. Not only that, you also have that 60-bit processor, multi-core architecture actually increases the RAM further. So you can do a lot of data processing in the RAM itself, which was not possible earlier. Second is also the column storage. So column storage actually makes analytics much more faster. So what happens is data compression is there, so parallel processing is possible. You can access the data much faster. And when you combine this, you get one is the hardware side, another is the software side. So hardware side, basically I talked about your multi-core architecture with the large RAMs, etc. While right-hand side, if you see, this basically helps you the combination of row and columnar structure. So what makes the things is what comes about this, once you add this thing, it's pretty fast. And second, you can also process lots of data. But that lots of data is not too much. So let's talk into some of the two topics we'll be touching about, which are the customers or business asking us. First is that how can we get into real-time analytics? So one of the things is happening with in-memory computing is that, see, if you earlier used to have an ERP system separately and a BW reporting system separately, so which is basically called OLTP and OLAP, right? So you get the data from ERP system, aggregate this, transfer to BW, generate the report, so there is a huge lag. But in memory, what is happening? This is all putting it together. So the moment your sales order is created or purchase order is created, you can immediately access the data and you can immediately get the report. So your reports are practically real time, especially the operational reporting. So that is the part one of the story. What else is happening? Another part is what is happening, and I'm taking SAP HANA as an example because that's the company I work for and that's what I know, but this is applicable across many other products or the other big players they're talking about. So it's basically, if you look at, it's a marriage of the proprietary technology and the open source. Taking the example of the layer you talk about, SAP HANA and Hadoop. So SAP HANA is very fast. It uses in-memory computing. It's very fast, it's expensive, you cannot store too much of data. Probably some 200 terabyte is probably the maximum you can store as of today. But when you get the data from clickstream and others, the volume of data is too high and it's unstructured. So you store the data in Hadoop. So how do we segment the data? First is hot data, which is basically you need regularly, which is at the SAP HANA. Then the cold data, which is Hadoop, which is huge, it's like a data lake. So what I'd like to kind of bring into your attention is that how the whole architecture actually embeds the proprietary technology as well as your open source technology. Same thing you will see later in the analysis of the statistical model. So let's look into something. The other aspect is also happening. So companies like SAP, they are putting a lot of money to develop what? So develops basically making their technology much more open. So today with this development like say SAP HANA what I talk about, today you can use your Scala, Java, Python, you can use those technologies and develop and then bring into SAP HANA. And if you look at earlier days when I started my career as an SAP consultant, it was all you have to know ABAP is that only technology you know. Today that's not required anymore. So what's happening? So you can actually access lot of technologies available in the market, integrate with HANA. So what you get the open source benefit of open source technology, which is free and easily accessible, and combine with your proprietary technology, which makes your processing faster. Another example, so that I talked about data storage. Now our analysis. See, all of us know that R offers a lots of kind of algorithms. So can we integrate our algorithms with HANA? So we are bringing in those algorithms. So we create the algorithms in R, bring it inside HANA, and then we run inside the processor. So what happens? You again get a marriage between the open source technology and proprietary technology. You get kind of huge volumes of algorithms, which will probably take years to develop in SAP. But you bring it inside SAP and use the technology HANA background, which is basically you're making things faster. So if you look at what's happening, so going back to the story of the rabbit and the rabbit and the tortoise. Now it's actually not rabbit is first, whether rabbit is first or whether tortoise is first. It's basically together they are working together to achieve the result. So it's basically marriage of the technology. So it's not about kind of competing, it's more like a complementing the technology. Second part, it also expands the product capability. So without doing a development, you get an access to the already what is done in the open source technology, right? Then you have already larger knowledge community, the people who are already working in this technology, like your Java or Python, they can easily start building and then you can leverage the in-memory computing. And of course, it simplifies your digital architecture. So I'll take an example, real life example where we have actually implemented. So it's a company, in European company, they actually manufacture compressors. And earlier their whole model was they used to make compressor and sell across the world. But things has changed. Now their model has completely changed. They don't sell compressor anymore. what they do? They rent it out and they take care of the maintenance. So that's where the money comes from. So as part of this process, they have to access huge amount of data. They have to track the maintenance and they have to predict the maintenance, because they also have to store the spare parts in the nearest place, right, where actually the breakdown can happen. So they store the data, bring the data, store the data and process the data. What has happening? So they use Hadoop to store all the data. It's a little old slide, so that is under consideration, but now Hadoop is already incorporated. So they bring the data, store in Hadoop, but they use predictive analytics model from the running on the HANA. They create those predictive model and predict when the breakdown can happen and what parts will be required. Based on that, they could reduce their inventory drastically, almost 70%. And they could also reduce the cost of service, because then you have to actually optimize the number of people required, number of components required. So that has actually helped them to kind of improve the profit margin drastically. Same thing are getting extended now as a part of the machine learning algorithm. So it will be a little difficult to go through this machine learning algorithm one by one, but some of the scenarios which is being built, say for example CV matching. So data which is from the text from the CV, huge number of CV you get when the application happens. You try to find out the right individual which is the right fit for you. So we use that CV matching algorithm there. Automated sales forecast, which kind of look into the data coming from different Twitters or your Facebook or other sources, as well as the internal sources, and predict what can be the possible sales instead of manually entering in the Excel and trying to find out something. Then matching the invoice. So this is one of the aspects where it can actually prevent fraud. So you can see the invoice coming and match with the text and the components what is available there and what the parameters. So that used to be manual, so you can actually reduce workforce. So there are quite a few such scenarios which are right now being built under this. So what I wanted to summarize is that the two things are happening. So one is that your in-memory computing is helping to make our analytics much more faster and much more real time, because today we really don't have to store the data in separate places. Second aspect what is happening is that it's the proprietary technology and your open source. They're working together. So when you want to implement or you advise your customer to implement, best way is to not only the proprietary, not only the open source, but it's a right marriage between these two data sources to give them the best result. So with that I end my short presentation. Any questions I can take up now? Sorry, I think there's one question in the back. Yes.
So data gets captured in the ERP system in an RDBMS, right?
Right.
So then from there you have to pull the data in Hadoop and then you have to load in memory. So the data, the time window between when the data actually get created in ERP versus when the data is available for analysis is still going to increase, right?
Yeah, so if I got your question right, so you are asking that if it is an ERP and then you are also talking, so if is ERP data already there, why you want to move into Hadoop, right? Is that the question?
No, what I'm saying, like the time window, like you are talking about real time.
Right.
But it is never real time, right? You still have to process the data, load into Hadoop, and then you have to again build the in-memory cubes on top of it. So the time window will still be very different from when the data got actually captured in ERP versus when it will be available for any analytics down the line.
Okay, so to answer the question, if you see, that actually talked about two scenarios. So first scenario is real-time scenario, where your all the reporting data, earlier what used to happen, the ERP data, you'll take it, you aggregate it and move it to BW and see the reports. Now what is happening with HANA is coming, and as well as that now there's no more need of aggregates. So most of the operational report you can run there, then and there, and since there is a lot of aggregation is not required and the calculation is much faster, your reporting is kind of almost real time. I'll say almost real time because there is a difference of fraction of seconds because you have to get the data saved and then it get calculated. Second scenario is the Hadoop scenario. So Hadoop scenario is something where you getting data not only from ERP, but you're getting data from, for example, social media, right? So you have multiple systems. You have ERP, you have your CRM, you have supply chain. So you're getting all the data. Plus you have a lot of your cloud-based systems, Facebook data or Twitter data. You get all the data, dump on Hadoop. And you only fetch the data which is required for processing to HANA. So that is probably for something like you're doing a predictive analytics scenario. So predictive analytics, you may not need the data to do immediately, but you need to kind of collect the data and build the scenario. Based on that, you need to build the model. So these are the two slightly different scenarios.
Yeah, so I have a two question here.
Sure, yes.
I have a two question. One is associated with the data science,
Right.
which is already there in SAP HANA. The library of data science is already exist in SAP HANA.
Yes.
Then why R? Integration with SAP HANA.
Okay.
And with R, are we able to align other open source platform like Vika, Statistica? There are many more open source tools, RapidMiner. And is it allowed to align with SPSS and SAS also?
Okay. So there are two things. So first is that why first question I'll take that. So there are already algorithms available in HANA, you are right. But it's a limited algorithm. So it's what SAP don't want to develop is there is already thousands of algorithms already available. So there are around 35 to 40 and they are adding which is the more frequently used algorithm. Those are available in HANA. But on top of that you want to use some other algorithm and the other you can fetch from R. You can build in R, you can combine and bring it inside HANA. So that's the reason. So we don't really, SAP HANA doesn't carry thousands of algorithms. It has 35 to 40, which is more frequently, more common algorithms. But rest all we have advice, take it from R, run it inside.
It's just contradicting with your statement. When you started, you said R always give you the disclaimer.
Right. So
that's why I'm saying.
No, you are very right. So that is the reason that when we sit in front of the customer say that, okay, this is your our algorithm, this is your open source. The challenge I see that what is my security and all this stuff. So those things are addressed when you build that. So you no more run the algorithm in R. You actually build the algorithm in R and fetch inside HANA. So it's get embedded inside your system. Right. So that brings in some of the security aspects, etc. inside that. So it then becomes your own algorithm, not in something in open source. This one. And second question, I'll try to answer that question. So SAP is in the way, and to be very honest, SPSS and SAS, everybody is kind of working on that to kind of opening it to your open source. So I talked about HANA Vora. So HANA Vora was a big leap for SAP. So what happens, it is not only R, now we can use Python, Java, or some other programs like Scala, etc. that you can use to develop your predictive models, etc., and then bring it inside HANA. So that's a step. It's still some more iteration probably required to be perfect, but there are a lot of customers already exploring that option.
Thank you.
Yeah. SAP HANA, sir.
Sorry.
How do you facilitate institutional learning? R is open source.
Yes.
R is open source with respect to
right.
SAP and HANA. How do you facilitate institutional learning?
So institutional, if I understood your question rightly, that probably goes back.
Institutions.
Sorry?
For educational institutions in India.
Yeah, so educational institute, SAP has tie-up programs with the institutes where they kind of, you will see that we actually go teach, we can share and train people in SAP products and solutions there. So SAP has a dedicated team who actually works closely with the educational institutes to kind of bring the data, bring the information there. Second thing also what SAP started is that something called OpenSAP. So OpenSAP is like EDX or your, if you look at like Coursera and others. So we run a lot of sessions which is virtually free. Everybody can go and access and learn these sessions. So these are the two ways we are bringing it closer to the education institute.
SAP HANA, can I ask the question?
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
Can you give
SAP HANA is a cloud platform, right? It is a platform as service or it is just a database as a service? I
Sorry,
couldn't
I'm not
understand.
able to hear you. It's open.
Would you able to hear me?
OpenSAP.com. OpenSAP.com.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, the SAP HANA is a platform as a service model, or it is like you take the problem and consult and give the solution on top of the platform? I know SAP HANA is an in-memory database, but maybe I missed out. I came a little late. What is this SAP HANA cloud platform? Is a cloud platform
Yes.
as a platform as service?
Okay, so actually very nice question. So SAP actually offers HANA in three different forms. So HANA is an in-memory technology, the database, there's no question about that. So one is that you get embedded with SAP's product, like ERP and other, which can be on-premise. Second option is that you go on HANA, which is called your on HANA cloud-based product. So SAP's products are on cloud. Third option is called HANA Cloud Platform, where you can use that database and develop your own application. So there are three different offerings altogether. So existing ERP guys just can go and upgrade and move into HANA. While somebody wants to build some completely new, you can go and do it in HANA Cloud Platform.
Okay.
So that's a kind of open platform. And a lot of startup companies are now working with SAP. SAP is a startup initiative. So they are working with SAP to build those applications, which integrates with SAP's products as well.
Okay, this cloud platform has big data capabilities and all, like Hadoop clusters, everything is available in the SAP cloud platform, or we need to do all the setup?
Okay, so
maybe I'm comparing with Amazon and Azure maybe.
Yeah, so if you look at Amazon is a completely open, right? So you can, basically it's a data storage. It's a storage where you can go create your everything, you can store your software, etc. Here what is HANA Cloud Platform is offering is slightly beyond that. So you have to use HANA Cloud Platform for that. Now, right now there's no Hadoop and all this stuff is available, but just to probably if you have read in news, SAP just acquired a company called Altisource. So Altisource offers Hadoop. So this will integrate with SAP's HANA Cloud Platform. But wait for 6 months. It just been acquired, so probably some integration work will happen.
Okay.
So then you will get the features of Hadoop and everything as part of that.
Okay, right now the customers will benefit if I have a lot of SAP products, and then if I want to move into the analytics, then SAP HANA comes in handy for me.
So yes, as of SAP HANA is definitely one of the options. It's not that you have to go for SAP HANA, but say for example things like predictive analytics, etc. It is on HANA. But there are a lot of traditional BW customers who are still non-HANA database. But as the new versions coming up, those are more and more kind of works better with the HANA, because then you get the reports much faster. So say for example, SAP just launched your called BW for HANA. BW for HANA actually changes the entire BW structures. So all this aggregation, all this thing becomes much more simplified. So then you can actually, many of these reports actually become more closer to the real time. So it's not mandatory that you have to use BW on HANA, but that gives you better result.
Yeah, when I want to choose SAP HANA, right, I
Yes.
always feel it's very expensive. Maybe why don't you bring it down so that there will be more adoptions, more customers will come. Because now the marketing trend is changed, right? Like pay as usage, like if you use 10 GB, there is a special rate. Something like different pricing models you can choose, because I couldn't able to afford SAP HANA. I mean, for my customer, actually, we were looking about some in-memory databases, but it's very expensive. Maybe it's I'm too young, but I felt it like it's a kind of suggestion that see the different pricing model, not like a big price for the this thing.
Right.
Okay.
So maybe what we can do, probably as we are running short of time, so maybe we can take it offline, your questions, if it is okay for everybody. So we can take it offline with your question in more detail post this session. Sorry. By the way, I didn't came to promote SAP HANA. I just took that example because I work for that company. It's easier for me to explain.
Hi. Probably specific to SAP guys, but I just want to ask you what is the roadmap for the guys in SAP, because there are a lot of other tools in the market now. And apart from that, SAP has new tools coming up like SAP Vora, and there are many more. Even the Altic source is coming up for to replace Hadoop or to take over Hadoop. Okay. So what would be the roadmap for the SAP guys?
Okay, so SAP HANA, if you look at SAP's roadmap, it actually, I try to summarize in probably 2 sentences or 3 sentences. So the roadmap is that, one is that definitely move towards more towards cloud-based products. So cloud is a part of big strategy. Second part is HANA is going to play a big role in everything. Third part is, if you look at, we have more and more opening to the open source. And as I said, it's not only SAP, all the companies are doing that. All the big companies are getting. Today you can integrate even SAS with SAS or SPS also you can integrate with a lot of open source. But a more important part is that we are going more towards open source, integration open source. And fourth part is probably is that if you look at the training and education kind of stuff also, you are getting more and more free training and education. So people are becoming more easily kind of do that. And fifth, if anybody of your old SAP user like me, when I started, used to see all the gray screen, all the tick, tick, tick drill down. Now there's a big impact on the how the UI works. So user interface is much more simpler today, much more interesting. So when I started my career in 97, 98, this user UI and today's UI is completely different. So these are probably the generic trends you can talk about SAP's direction. But it's basically making it cheaper for the